Who's gonna be the first one? Hey, Jing, yes. Our stage manager, yes. The first one. Yes, Ben's here. Okay, I'm gonna pull Ben in. Welcome everybody to Straight Out of Martha's House, a look into today's artists of the Graham Company. Let's get Ben in. Should be coming. Waiting for Ben. Where's Ben?
Yeah.
Yes!
You brought back the stash.
I know, it's back. It's back for now.
He brought back the pirate.
The pirate is back. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You know, I'm here. Just,
Yeah, where else you gonna be?
just hanging out.
Doing a little home decorating.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yes.
Sitting at home.
So Young says, nice view. You have a great view.
Yes, we've been working on our back area. Too bad the weather is not letting us go back there.
Yes.
Show you our big, big trees. I'm so excited. They lived through the winter.
Ben just moved into a fabulous new house. Oh, soon, Ben. Wait, so if you can introduce yourself to everyone and where you're from.
I'm Ben Schultz from Denver, Colorado, and I'm a principal. Well, I'm a principal. Company.
Yes, you're a principal
right now, but we'll just
you're a principal. Wow. Let's start. Okay, well, how did you tell us, because we don't really know dancers when they're young, so if you could tell us what young Ben was like. Give us the scoop. What was young Benny like?
Young Ben was basically like old Ben, just I think not as jaded. Now, let's see. I didn't discover dance till I was 15.
Okay.
So the first things I got into were music. So
Okay.
I started playing the piano, I think it was like 3 or 4. And then I played a bunch of different brass instruments. And somewhere around junior high, I got into musical theater. So started studying voice. And this whole time I kept up piano. And I think I was still playing the trumpet or something like that. And that basically was like from the time I was 3 till high school. And then my sophomore year of high school, I started taking dance because of musical theater. And then that's when I got introduced to dance. But I was always a very creative, strange little kid.
Why did you, because you were playing so many instruments, why did dance steal all the focus after a while?
Well, originally it was when I was in junior high. I think it was a touring production of Phantom of the Opera.
Okay.
And I was also at that time going to an arts junior high school where I was doing like music as a major and drama as a minor because I always kind of liked acting. And at that moment, I was like, I really want to do something that's on stage.
Okay.
And at that point, it was musical theater. So I knew like I wasn't going to be a professional piano player or anything like that, or I didn't want to be a professional musician in that format, but I kept with it because I've been doing it for so long and whatnot. And then when I got into dance my sophomore year, I just kind of like fell in love with it, and it sort of took over my life at that point.
Okay.
I mean, I still loved theater. I ended up going to college and doing a double major in theater and ballet performance and a minor in opera. So I still wanted to do those things. But dance just always seemed to work out.
Yeah. You're like, I got this.
Well, it's true. I mean, like, I just dance. It's not like I didn't have to work hard at it. I had to work hard at it, but it was always like, that's where I was always landing work. That was where I was always sort of in demand to be used.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got into I went to Indiana University, and they do open auditions for all their theaters, which is kind of
Okay.
interesting. So I had gotten in my freshman year into their musicals, like Guys and Dolls, and I was like competing against like grad students. But the only reason why was because I was a male dancer,
Yeah.
and it was Guys and Dolls. They needed male dancers.
I'm
So
sorry. I'm sorry.
it just kind of, no, it's fine. So from a practicality standpoint, that's kind of where I kept landing work all the time. So it just sort of was like, I'll go in that direction
It
since
worked
it seems
out.
to be working.
Oh.
So
And
yeah.
how did you find your way to Graham?
When I first started dancing in my sophomore year of high school, the place I was dancing, there was a woman there named Franca Telesio who came from Robert Cohen.
Okay.
And so she was teaching Graham, and later I learned that it was his version of Graham, but that's beside the point. And I always found it incredibly fascinating, even when I was like 14 or 15. And then I kind of got away from it. I went the ballet route. That was mainly because when I went to university, one of the only universities I could find that had really good dance, theater, and vocal departments and let you double major, their dance department was all ballet.
Okay.
So that decided to go that route. And then in my 20s, I took a break from dancing and did other things. And then when I came back into dancing in like my mid to late 20s, I started coming back into ballet. I was like, you know, I always liked ballet, but I never really loved it. I mean, I appreciate it as a dancer, but as a dancer dancing,
Yes.
it was never really what I wanted to be doing. I was
Okay.
like, you know, I remember the Graham thing, and I also remember the Horton and a lot of modern techniques that I love. Let's explore those. So at that time, there was a woman in Colorado, which is where I was, and she had come from the Graham School. She danced at Graham too and stuff like that. So I started taking with her. I was like, oh yeah, I totally remember this. This is so crazy and hard and amazing. And then that just kind of turned into, I wanted to get out of Colorado because I wasn't happy. I ended up meeting you, who recommended me dancing or auditioning for the Graham Company at like a Puglisi workshop.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, she was giving like a workshop, and I was like, "Where are you from?
Like,
Come
I'm from
dance with us."
Colorado. You were like, Janet would really like you. I was like, okay.
I was like, "This is the perfect place for you."
Well, I took your advice because actually at that time I wasn't even considering. I was looking at kind of artists that came out of Graham, like Puglisi and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then after talking to you, and then the woman that was treating me back in Denver, her name was Melissa McCorkle. She was like, "Oh, they would love it. You should totally do it." I was like, "All right." So then I did it, and they hired me. It's
Yes.
like, all right, I guess.
You're like, okay, I'll do
All
that.
right, I get to dance for Graham.
BTW, there's everybody, almost the whole company is online and they say hi to you.
Oh,
Lorenzo,
hi.
Charlotte, Blakely's on here, like Aging So Young. All right, so they send their love.
All right, I'll tell them thank you.
All right, can you tell us about your audition? What was your audition like?
It was so long. Oh my God. It's like, it was actually a lot of fun. It felt more like a workshop versus like an audition.
Uh-huh.
My dog might be grunting at me as I'm doing this. If I yell at him, it's him, not you guys.
Okay, good to know.
He wants to go outside and he can't go outside. No, it was a Saturday, Sunday. I think the Saturday was like 5 hours, maybe 6. And the Sunday was another 3.
Okay.
And I learned, oh my God, it was an across the floor combination to start, then the floor section of Acts of Light, then men's section of the Ensemble Bison section of Angels, Jason solo.
Oh my God.
The I don't know what you call it now, the Apache, where the guys come out 7, 8, tilt 1, 2 into the partnering. That thing,
Yes.
Angels. And then the husband solo.
What?
And, yeah.
I don't think you've ever told me this. I
Oh
don't
my
think
God,
I've
it was
ever
like,
known
that was
this.
6 things. And it was a riot because the callback, the Sunday, the callback, we were reviewing, oh God. That's when we did the husband solo, was the callback. So we had done all 5 of those things. We came back, we had to re-show Angels partnering, had to re-show Jason solo, and then start learning, God damn, the husband solo. And they had forgotten the music.
Okay. Like they didn't have it.
Yeah, they didn't have it. I was like, oh, thank God, because I don't think I could put another, because everything we had put to music also.
Yeah.
So all 5 of those things we had put to music and then done it for like the panel of, I don't know, however many. It was like 6 or something. So I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to figure this thing out with music. So
Wow.
to do that, I don't think I'll remember it.
Wait,
So
Charlotte said, was he alone or at the audition or was it,
no,
was it only
like,
men?
No, there was, I think 40 men.
Okay.
I think it was 40 men and like 90 women, something like that.
Yes.
And then the callback was, let's see, 1, 2, myself 3, 4. The callback was like between 6 and 8 men or something like that.
Damn, you did every piece in the
I'm
in the
telling you,
repertoire.
it was like, I was tired.
Yes.
But like I said, it was fun though, because like Tade was running the audition for the men's side, because he was there at the time. So we would go into a separate studio, and it was more like a workshop.
Okay.
You know, like, you know, we went through the movement and discussed it and blah, 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 blah. And so it felt more like a dance workshop that was an audition versus an audition.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it was much more, it was kind of relaxed in that respect. So it was much more, I guess, rewarding if I feel like you didn't feel so like on a chopping block, I guess.
Yeah, no.
Like, yeah, like dance auditions, you just feel like such a like worthless piece of human tissue, and you're a number, and
it felt a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and it felt like if I didn't get the job, at least I got like a positive experience. At least my audition fee is worth something.
Yeah.
Because like I did the same year I had done like a Paul Taylor audition, and it was crazy. It was like 6 a.m. You learn like a 3-minute combination in like 60 seconds. Got thrown on the floor to dance, and was like, bye. Like,
make it work.
Like, well, I'm glad I got up at 4 a.m. for this.
But it worked out. You came to Graham.
Yes.
You did 60 ballets in 2 days. You got the job.
All I ever did, I learned at the audition.
Wait, okay, so now you got in, and you've been in the company for a while now.
Yeah.
What's your favorite roles that you've been doing? You've gotten to do.
For Graham roles, I really love the Shaman and Rite of Spring.
Okay.
And Oedipus and Night Journey.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say I love it, but I have a great respect for it. I'm glad I'll never do it again. Aaron and Aaron to the maze. But I would say my 2 favorites for myself are Shaman and Oedipus. My 2 favorites for kind of Graham work and the pieces, I would say Jason and from Cave of the Heart, and then the Minotaur and Aaron.
Okay.
And then
why do you love the Shaman so much in the Rite of Spring?
Well, I got a weird opportunity with the Shaman because we were basically kind of reconstructing the piece, and Janet, I mean, you could debate if this is right or wrong or whatever, but she wanted to revamp that part.
Yes.
You know, so we were redoing the sets so that they were stripped down a little bit more so we could tour with it. She really wanted to highlight the core and the chosen one because she felt like, you know, that was where like the meat of the choreography was, and I kind of agree with that. And she really wanted to kind of revamp the Shaman. So I kind of, normally learning Graham's work, you know, you get a ton of videos, you know, you're learning 5 different versions of the same part. You're talking to different people that did it, and then you're putting this thing together. Well, this was kind of like, all right, well, let's look beyond that. Let's not just look at we only really had on video George White and Steve Rooks. There weren't any of the other shamans. I think there was 2 or 3 others that had done it. But she really wanted it just totally different. So look at the men's choreography, and kind of like recreate the role. So I got to kind of recreate it, which was a really kind of cool experience considering it's, you know, I didn't have Martha Graham in front of me saying yes, no, no, yes. You know, like I said, people could debate if that's ethical or not. Whatever. My job was to serve the director. But it was also cool because I got to, like, you know, I talked to Linda Hodes, who was present during the process of the original piece being choreographed, or the original version of it. Talked to Steve Rooks, talked to Kenneth Topping, and talked to people that were really present when it was originally being done. And then it's one of the few pieces where men never leave the stage. You know, like, well, I should say where that character never leaves the stage.
Yeah, he's constantly.
Yeah, once you're on for the whole thing, and that piece of music is so insane to be on stage the whole time and present.
Yeah.
It just does wacky things to you.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's the chosen one, but at the same time, you go through a whole psychological.
But the chosen one, she does have moments where she exits in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, she's coming in and out with the women.
Yeah.
And then when she's on, she's on. Like, the shaman is really the character that holds that whole piece together. And kind of also, I feel also kind of creates sort of a window into her journey, sort of like the chorus does for Cave of the Heart. Like, the chorus is the one that sort of is between audience and the characters on stage.
Yeah.
I feel like Shaman does that not as directly as chorus, where she's directly talking to the audience, but, you know, the shaman's really kind of out in the audience, out behind the stage, like out kind of in the atmosphere, and everyone else is more into the center of the piece.
Yes, for sure.
So it's that character that really brings that outside, that audience sort of into the space and what they're going to be witnessing and what's going on. And also gives the chosen one something to play against that allows the audience to really witness this crazy thing that she's being asked to do. Yeah. So it's a really powerful, important, strong role to play, and to experience playing it is very fulfilling. It's depleting, it's exhausting, but at the end of it, it's very fulfilling.
Good.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so that's why I like that one.
What about, so you made a comment about Aaron into the maze. So can you explain your special love for Aaron into the maze?
Oh my God. All right, well, Aaron was one of the first pieces I learned when I joined the company, which is funny because I saw a video of it and I was like, there is no way I'm going to do this and not kill myself. But like literally, sent me a video of it and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to survive that.
Like, hell no.
That's crazy. And I think I started in the company, and 5 weeks later I was on stage doing it, something like that. And of all the pieces that I've done in the company that is Graham's work, I would say that one I've done not the most. I think the most would be Angels, but this would be very close second.
Yeah.
And that piece is, ooh. It's a brilliant piece because everything that is needed to convey the piece is in the physical movement. Mm-hmm. You don't have to, try to be scary. You don't have to try to be angry. You don't have to try to be any kind of emotion.
Yeah.
It's all in the piece. And if you dig really deep into the movement, into the choreography, and into the technique, then the entire piece becomes revealed. It's just so insanely hard
Yes.
and difficult. And the thing about it, and this is almost all of Graham's work, is the more you do it, it doesn't get easier. And that's what I learned about year 4 doing the piece.
You're like, oh, it's still
Yeah, around
hard.
year 4, I was like, why is this still scaring the hell out of me every time I go on stage? Like, come on, I've been doing this now 4 years. At that point, I think I had like 5 different partners. I am still terrified when I run on stage. So around year 4, I just finally realized this is never going to get better. Like, it's never not going to scare the heck out of you. You're never not going to feel like you're going to throw up at the end of it. That's the piece. And so what you learn is, it's like you learn to mentally manage that while physically surviving it.
Yeah.
And it was a real, I mean, in reflection, it was a really interesting thing to learn. Like, now people ask me what goes through your head when I do it or when I did it. It's like, oh, I'm having like meditative conversations with myself.
Numb your horror.
I am. I'm like, oh, you're falling off. You're like, it's fine. Okay. Because you know what? That leg will be there in just a minute, and maybe you'll be on it. And if not, it's okay. You're fine. You're good. It's crazy.
It's fine. It's
really,
fine.
and it's funny because I've told that to some people now in the company that have started to do it, and they're like, I get it. I see what you're talking about. Because if you panic in that piece, you will go down in flames. Like, you'll just fall apart. Like, there's so much physicality and adrenaline, and because your body it goes into like survival mode.
Yeah.
Like, adrenaline kicks in, reflexes kick in, and before you know it, you feel like you're literally fighting for your life.
Yeah.
And then you're doing all this insane partnering with this woman. So it's like, if you go into panic mode, it's over.
Yeah.
So you spend the whole piece trying to get yourself off the ledge, but still execute. And I mean, it's a piece I'm very proud of because I was right when I first saw it.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
It is.
But it never defeated me.
You got a hold of it. You always
pieces,
looked great in it.
Some other things hurt me in the company, but that one, I never got hurt during that piece. I survived it for 12 years with like 8 different partners.
You even did it. Everybody, he performed it with Diana Vishneva multiple times.
Well, in Russia, I did it in Cuba, I did it all over. I did it at the Herodian Atticus. I've done it with the set, without the set.
It's yours.
It's mine. I've done it with a blindfold. And I'm not lying. That one.
So my next question was, what's a dream role? Would that be your dream role, Big?
Oh no. That's dead. I have put that to sleep. And I'm fine that it rests. No, I would say of Graham's work, parts I haven't done, the husbandman, I think would be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to do, I think the husbandman, there's a lot in there that I think I would enjoy. And now being older, I'm going to be 42, I think there's a lot I could probably bring to it that I think could be interesting. But
of course. Yeah.
I would say that's definitely one that I look at and go, that could have been fun to explore.
Okay.
Yeah, probably that one.
All right. Well, also, we do contemporary pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if you could speak about a favorite contemporary piece that you've gotten to be a part of so far, or a choreographer.
My favorite is Matz Axe.
Yes.
Bam. That was one of my favorite. I would say like the Shaman and then Matz X are probably my 2 favorite experiences with the company. But that was also wrapped up in the experience of it. Like, we got to go to Stockholm for 2 weeks. just the dancers that were in the piece. We got to work with him and his wife.
4 weeks, huh?
Was it 4 weeks?
Yeah, it was like 4
It
weeks
was
or longer.
okay, 4 weeks. We got to work with him and his wife, Anna, and I just forgot his name. Oh, who was the male that dances it with Anna? Yvonne?
Yvonne, sorry.
Yvonne.
Yeah.
And just being with them and in their environment and learning his language, and also having Anna and Yvonne to sort of be a different voice for his language. It was such a cool experience. And then I loved the piece, and I thought the piece fit very well in the Graham rep as a non-Graham piece.
For sure.
You know, it was built for adults, older dancers. It was a much more adult theme. It was a female's journey, and that journey was based upon her relationship with the male. All of the emotion that is conveyed in the piece was conveyed through his physical movement, like all the things, and then his movement itself is just very earthy and very gestural, but it's not any way gestural like Graham's. Like in all like the foundations of Graham's work, I felt that piece was encompassing it. But at the same time, it didn't at all look like a Graham piece, which is great. So definitely that one. And then close second would be Nacho Duato's Rust.
Yes.
I think that piece is beautiful. And I love the experience of just having it choreographed and working with him. And so probably those two.
Also, the thing about both of them that I really found interesting was that they showed every step.
Oh my gosh.
They demonstrated every step full out.
Well, I mean, like Matz was different because he was taking it off of
the video.
So most of the choreography he had already set. But I mean, I've talked to some other people who work with Matz. That's how he is. Like he has the whole thing figured out when he comes in the studio. And oh my gosh, it's like the most meticulous thing. Like if your finger is wrong, he's like, no, the finger's here, it doesn't go there. And then Nacho, he was creating it on our bodies, which was a very different experience, but the same thing. It was like, no, that doesn't look good on you. Let's do this instead. No, move the arm this way, do it that way. And you're right, like they are full out.
Full out. I remember the audition from Matz, and I was like, how old is this man? Like,
he looks beautiful, and now he's like so performing beautiful again. He's in his 70s. I was like, get it.
Legs still up. Nacho as well, so good.
I know Nacho's legs still like go up to his face. I'm like, honey, my legs have never gone that high, and I'm like, how many years younger than you? Like seriously, put that down.
He's like, can you do this? And you're like,
no. I'm not you, boo. I'm sorry.
Give me some time. Give me some time.
I gotta do some yoga.
Yes. Oh, okay. Ben, what's been your favorite show so far?
Show and what, like performance?
Favorite show that you've performed.
Oh.
Do you have a memory of a favorite show?
Well, the ones that immediately come to mind are the Hubbard at Atticus.
Yes.
Paris Opera.
Always. Everyone's answer has been Paris Opera.
Yeah, right. Well, Hubbard at Atticus was doing Erin with Blakely, White McGuire. That was a really wonderful experience with her on that stage. And then Paris Opera, because Paris Opera, live music and Rite of Spring and everything else. And then probably when I got to do Erin in the Mariinsky Theater in Russia.
Yes.
That would be my third. So probably those three.
All right.
Would be my favorite and most memorable experiences, I think.
World-class artists all over the world. Would those also be your favorite tours?
My favorite tours would be, yes, let me see. When I was dancing Aaron with Deanna and Marinsky, Mickey Arahara and I had gone out 2 weeks just by ourselves to set it on her and then another male dancer that was going to be dancing with her when I had left. And then at the end of it, we performed. So that was one of my favorites because it was also, she was doing, I can't remember what they called it, but it's basically like, it's a show to honor her, and then she asks other artists to perform. So like Desmond Richardson had come. Oh my God, I'm forgetting everyone's name now. Anyway, a bunch of really amazing dancers that all come.
Yeah.
And so we were all together for those 2 weeks and just laughing and, you know, in each other's worlds. And, and then at the end of it, this really great performance. So that was a pretty cool and memorable experience. Another one was one of our more recent tours, I think 2-3 years ago, the big Spain tour we did where we ended at the Madrid Opera House.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that tour because it was spread out in this way where you could enjoy Spain. And then also my partner had come, so we had a blast. We ate cachopo. Which is some
flamenco.
Fried loveliness. Lots of ciders. I would think those two definitely step out in my mind as my favorite tours.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Blakely is all about this right now. She's all in this.
What up, Blake?
What when you perform and you dance now, can you talk a little bit about your inspirations, thoughts?
I don't know what my inspirations are. Thoughts. Right now, I think my thoughts are just to try to honor what I'm doing on stage to kind of the best of my abilities, and those abilities are kind of where I'm at now as a human being and as a dancer.
Yeah.
I had the lovely advantage of when I joined the company of being sort of in the middle of age. Like there were dancers that were in their 20s all the way to dancers that were like almost 50. And so I got to really learn the value of changing how you dance and how you approach dance as you age.
Yeah.
Which is something I don't think at least I wasn't really ever taught. Like, you know, I was taught repetition, same thing always, blah, blah, blah. I never was really taught, like, you'll reach this point where you have to now do it differently, or you can't keep doing that, otherwise you're going to start doing more harm than good. And so I got to learn that from these older dancers. And so now when I approach the work being, you know, in my 40s versus 30s, that's how I'm trying to approach it now, is as a older dancer, as an older person, where my body's at, what it's doing, and with what the piece is. How can I honor all that? And that's what's going through my mind when I approach it. I mean, generally when I'm going on stage, what's going through my head is like so not romantic or anything. It's it's like, you know, remember to look at that mark at the floor at that part, otherwise you'll fall. Look for this. Remember to breathe there. Don't do that. I mean, the only time I think I ever like had this moment of like, oh dear Lord, what I'm about to do, was when Blakely and I were doing the Herodian Atticus, because the audience is like an arena.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can't see them.
Yes.
It's an outdoor arena. So you see like you see 5,000 people's faces looking down at you. And we had done Aaron, which is just the two of us on stage. So walking out on stage in the blackout was terrifying, because you're like, oh my Lord.
You feel so exposed.
Oh my gosh, like more than I've ever felt in any theater I've ever been in. So that one was a big like adrenaline, like, oh yeah, let's do this, blah, blah, blah. But usually, like even at Paris Opera, like, you know, you and I laugh all the time. We're about to go on stage, we're cracking jokes.
They have no idea.
Like we're about to debut Paris Opera. We're like cracking jokes backstage.
Literally steps away from the
So yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't really have any magical things go through my head.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I think as far as like my inspiration, I really connect to like art that has been, not so much art that is happening now. That's how I've always been. Like when I was a kid, I loved I listened to all forms of music, but most of like the bands I would listen to were bands that were huge in the 70s and 80s when it was the 90s. Like I for some reason, I've always connected to what's in the past more than what's currently happening.
Yeah.
And so what's always kind of inspired me in doing that, especially being in like a company like the Graham Company, is staying connected to whatever that work was, and then trying to figure out what's relevant in it. I shouldn't say what's relevant in it now, because it's all relevant now, but what can you take from the now that will sort of infuse what it was then to sort of bring it into this kind of current, present place, I suppose.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally.
Take that.
And what advice would you give to people that's trying to make it in this career field?
Oh, Jesus.
Let us have it.
Oh, Lord. A couple of things. Learn to approach this industry as a business, which is very counter to artists, because we're very lucky to pursue something that we are very in love with. But you have to learn to approach it as a business, because you're going to be making a living at it. So by that, what I mean is you have, and this might sound really cruel and strange, you have to view yourself as a product. And you have to say, okay, well, what is my product and where is it desired? Case in point, me. Okay. I wanted to be dancing in New York. I was 30. So I knew, and I was I had a very strong male presence. I wasn't like super crazy flexible. I loved, classic modern techniques, and that looked really well on my body. And so a company like Paul Taylor, a company like Martha Graham, that was a good fit for me, because that's what I offered. Complexions would have been a terrible idea. I mean, it's just true. Like, my body does not do that, if like you are 5'5", then you're clearly going to have to seek out companies that don't have a height requirement where women are 5'9" minimum, that type of a thing. If you're wanting to be a part of a large company and you have a very specific body dimension type, and your body dimension doesn't fit that, how are you going to compensate for that? Like, that's what I mean by approach it as a business, of going, okay, well, what's the market, this company, what are they looking for? Do I have that? If not, can I acquire it? If not, how can I distract them or compensate for it? This is a really interesting story. I can't remember what dancer it was, but it was the New York City Ballet. And when she was in the school, somebody had told her, never stand parallel in front of George Balanchine, because she was bow-legged.
Okay.
And he said, he will not take you if you're bow-legged. So stand turned out all the time in front of George Balanchine. She became a huge City Ballet star.
Yes.
And then he found out she was bow-legged.
But
And that's
he worked
what I mean.
with her.
Like I said, that sounds really deranged and twisted, but that's the reality of the industry. Is, like, for instance, that's just the reality of the industry. You have to approach it as a business. And so if you want to work in it, you need to learn where can you work and how you're going to work. You can't stay in this mindset of only, I would just love to dance there, and then it stops. You have to go beyond that. It's like, okay, well, then what does that entail? Do I have those things? And for instance, like the body type thing. Okay, well, so they like long legs, short torso. I have long torso, short legs. How can I compensate for that? Well, let's show up to the audition, we'll wear a crop top, and then we'll pull the leg warmers up to my rib cage. So
work.
But that's what I mean. It's like you have to look at it as I have a product. How am I going to sell it? And that would be that's my first biggest advice. My second biggest advice once you get into the industry is understand the way you work must change as you grow older.
Yeah.
The way you're training at 20 and pre-professional, and the way you're training at 23 won't apply at 28 to 30, won't apply at 30 to 35. Like, it will have to change, and that's great.
Yeah.
But
you grow
understand that and work to apply that as you're growing so that you can have a long career.
Yeah.
You know, so those would be the two biggest things I got.
You better preach. You better preach.
And
well,
Lloyd,
now we're going to answer
Lloyd,
some
apparently
questions.
you have crop tops, according to Blakely. So you can give those out.
We're just going to ignore those comments. Who doesn't like a good crop top every once in a while?
You know, the 80s had some wonderful things.
A lot of good things.
The purple lipstick. The ponytail on top of the head.
We're going to answer some questions from the public that they have for you. So people can shoot them out now, but we have the first question is favorite pre-show food.
Oh, one of my favorite. Well, I always eat Snickers on tour. I don't know if it's pre-show. Probably a Snickers bar.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Ann Souter.
Oh,
Ben,
no.
do you enjoy choreographing yourself?
No, I don't actually. I don't mind choreographing if I'm choreographing for in a student context. Because my problem with choreography is I don't have any. First of all, I don't think what I have to say physically is all that interesting.
You don't know that, boo.
Well, that's true. But then the second thing is, if I'm choreographing for students, there's like a structure. It's like, okay, well, you're going to take what you worked on over the year and put it into performance content. You know, you have to use these students, so, you know, solos or whatever. Everyone has to have equal time on stage, blah, blah, blah. When you're doing choreography, it's like there's no structure. It's everything's out the door. You could do anything, which sounds really great until you're in a studio and you're like, oh, dear God, what am I going to do? And so that, I don't find that to be very, very fun.
All right.
I have a lot of respect for choreographers, and even more for choreographers who can choreograph on themselves. That I don't understand at all. Like, I can't. There's so many times I'll choreograph something and like for students, I'm like, oh, that feels so great. I think it looks great. And then I see it, I'm like, that looks terrible. But it's only because I'm looking at it in a different perspective.
Yeah.
And you can't see that when you're the one running around, jumping and turning.
Yes, that's true. Wait, hey, Blakely asked, what are some dances that you would like to perform? I'm guessing in the Graham repertoire.
Well, besides the Husbandman and Appalachian Spring, gosh, I'd have to think. Let me think. I think that one's the only one that like jumps into mind. If I was 10 years younger, I would say Conversation of Lovers.
All right, you could do that now.
I'm not doing that toe over hingy thing now.
Put on that red thong. Get it popping. All right. Let's dance.
Oh, she said any dance.
Oh, any dance.
Any dance. Oh God. You know what would be interesting to try, since I have the Graham version, as I just forget her name. Oh, what's the Rite of Spring with the dirt?
Pina Bausch?
Yeah, Pina Bausch's Rite of Spring.
Yes.
I think that would be interesting, just to take since I've done this very specific, powerful Rite of Spring, And I think Peanut Bouches is amazing, but it's very different to try that and see what that kind of experience would be, sort of in a juxtaposition.
All right.
That's what jumps in my brain.
Okay. Next question. Any routines for after your shows? Any after routines after shows?
Normally I have a protein drink. I know, I'm so boring. I might have a glass of wine.
Yes. You know that's your routine. You just finished busting it.
I'm not a go out late after dancing. I mean, honestly, I'm not a go out really at all when I'm on tour because tour is so exhausting. Mm-hmm. Normally I tend to like to get out of the theater as fast as possible because they're there a lot. So I normally am protein drink, and then back at the hotel I might have a glass of wine, and then I'm laying in bed either reading or playing a video game, and that's about it. If it's towards the end of tour, or if it's, like a great city that we've been in for a few days, then maybe, it's a cafe or a restaurant or something. But so.
Right. Hey, Jane asks, any funny moments at Graham or during tour during performance? So a funny moment.
Oh, well, I don't know funny, but I guess you could say it's funny in hindsight. There was a performance of Rite of Spring where the rope didn't make an appearance. That was with Blakely too.
Yeah.
And I was at City Center, sold out with 3,500 people. Yeah. That's the funny haha that kind of comes to mind.
It will always be in your memory.
Yeah, that was terrifying, actually. Trying to think of any other. No, that's really the one that jumps into me. Other than my stupid self off stage. That's, taking the what's the Peju solo that Virginia reconstructed.
Oh, Extasias?
Yeah, where I was doing the music myself. and you all was busted up laughing while she's
I had to leave the stage level because I was about to bust out. But can I tell you a good on-stage moment with you?
Oh,
it's
God.
Not even, we weren't even dancing, but whenever we did the priest for Rite of Spring,
yes,
just crawling on our hands and knees, going back
to our little apartment.
So everybody out there, the platform for the Rite of Spring in the back, everything's hidden back there, the ropes, the fabric at the end, but the two priests have to crawl on their knees, hands and knees back there. You feel like a roach.
And we're wearing
mesh booty shorts
you could possibly imagine.
Crawling on our hands and knees. Just like, how are you doing right now?
Yeah, and then we get back there, and the funny thing is there's and you're trying to stay low, and you have to put the rope away and get the fabric ready, and you're crawling around each other, and you can't, there's no depth because you're up against the brim. And the whole time we're having this stupid guy, we're like, I love what you did with your apartment.
I love it. It always cracks me up. Always. Wait, Charlotte has a question. What companies in the States do you admire?
That's a good question. A couple that come to my Hubbard Street. I think Hubbard Street's a very solid company organization. I have to be honest, I don't do a lot of research on dance companies, but that's definitely one that comes to mind. Yeah, probably. I would say probably. I mean, I could say City Ballet and stuff like that. As far as an organization and whatnot. But thinking outside of New York, that's definitely one that comes to mind. I feel like they're a very solid organization. I think that their dancers are super talented. The work they're doing, it's rather interesting, and it's been interesting to see what they were doing in the '90s versus now, and That's definitely one that comes to mind.
Okay. One more. How was your experience at Paris Opera? I was at the premiere. You were great. Rite
Oh,
of
well,
Spring.
thank
Oh my
you.
God.
We loved it. We had a great time. It was wonderful. I mean, it was wonderful that the audience was so, first of all, it sold out every night. The audience was so interested in seeing Graham's work. I personally like the fact that it was a dominantly Graham program. Doing Rite of Spring at Paris Opera with the orchestra was unbelievable. And then just being in Paris, the whole thing was a great experience.
You really lived.
Yeah, it really was. It was a wonderful experience.
So Young, sorry, I cut you off.
Right.
So Young asks, there are some partnering classes back in the days, especially in the ballet world, but not anymore. Have you ever thought about teaching some partnering classes for the Graham School?
Yeah, we've actually been talking about that. If we do the summer intensive, I'm supposed to teach a partnering class.
Yes.
I don't know if we'll be doing a summer intensive, but I've had conversations with some of the teachers about that. And I'm hoping, like, kind of going forward, as I continue to kind of teach for the school and stuff like that, then that's something that might become more of a constant. Problem with the partnering is you have such a different, you have such an unbalanced ratio between men and women, so it's hard to figure out how you do that. If you have
those men are going to work.
They're going to work, but you don't want to destroy them. I mean, they got to have a career. But yeah, that's something that I've been very interested in, especially because in the Graham Company, the men's work is drastically different than the women's work, and obviously because the men choreograph their work. Mm-hmm. And so as a result of that, you kind of start finding that a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but there's things that either don't apply or things that aren't really taught or dealt with in the technique that apply to the men and what they have to do as far as partnering goes.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's very nice to be able to teach that to the men. Yeah. And also teach it to the women so they have an understanding of what the men are doing and then how that benefits them or how they can support the male and supporting them and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's something I'm hoping, and I think they've been working to get a little bit of that might start showing up at the school more. So
right, spread that knowledge. Yes. Oh, okay. We're gonna do a flash round of questions, Ben.
Oh Jesus.
Just fun little questions, and you just.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Yes.
Favorite song?
Why you gotta ask that one?
Oh, it's a good one.
Prince When Doves Cry.
Okay, see? Okay.
I don't know if that's true. It popped in my brain.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite drink?
Oh, right now it's a Boulevardier.
Okay. Wait, I don't even know what is that?
It's a Negroni, but with bourbon instead of gin.
Oh, that's serious.
It's real. It's quarantine serious.
Okay. Do you snore?
Yes. According to my partner, yes, I do.
Favorite borough?
Favorite borough?
Yes.
Brooklyn Heights.
Okay. Rain or shine?
Shine.
Dressy or relaxed?
Wait, what was that?
Dressy or relaxed?
Relaxed.
Bus or plane?
Plane.
Shower or bath?
Shower.
Favorite movie?
Oh, Jesus. Probably Contact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I haven't seen it in a while, but it used to be my favorite movie. My wife will be like, this is crap.
Like, what? Why did I say that?
I'm thinking, stupid person.
Okay, all right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite dessert?
Probably flourless chocolate cake.
Yum. Favorite number?
7.
Biggest pet peeve?
I only get to choose one.
It's just one. Okay, I'll give you two.
No, one. Biggest pet peeve: people that talk too much about things they don't know anything about.
Bam. All right. And last question: pointed or flexed?
Flexed.
Yes, another flex.
Yes, flex.
I think we only got like 3 flexes.
Although I don't have like the fierce toes, but that 3/4 modern point, you know, where the toes do that thing.
Yes.
But I don't have the greatest feet for it. But when you see like Blakely do it or someone with like fierce feet,
it's so good.
I love that old school modern point. Like I'm just not gonna point the toes.
You have a good line.
I have an okay line. I just don't have the greatest toe flexion, so it's kind of like, oh.
You good. Ben, we did the interview.
we survived.
You did it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, honey. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
I like the mustache. You need like the spectacles again.
I know. Coming soon. We'll see how much longer this is happening, and then I'll be a whole nother person.
Didn't you have mustache earrings to go with it?
I did have a mustache earring, yes. Maybe that'll come back as well. It's just, there's no rules anymore.
It's a big circle.
But thank you so much.
You're welcome, man. You take care.
Sending you a big hug.
All right. Take
Bye.
care. Stay safe. Bye.
You too. Yes, you guys learned about Benny. Thank you for watching and tuning into Martha's house again. I can't talk now, but thank you, and I hope you guys are well. And come back on Saturday. We have Miss Ann O'Donnell at 11 a.m. on Saturday, Eastern Standard Time. So come and learn about Ann. But thank you for today. And this interview will be saved on here for 24 hours, and then it'll go to the Martha Graham YouTube page where you can listen to all the interviews we've done so far. I think this might be our 9th one, so there's a good amount to catch up on if you haven't listened to any of them. But thank you again, and I hope everybody, I always say, but I hope your mind, body, and spirit are really high and doing good, and enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.